Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I've got to say, I am incredibly excited about this one because we are tackling the absolute core of business strategy. Today, we're demystifying exactly how brands find their ideal customers, and way more importantly, how they actually earn their lasting loyalty. We're going to break down the science and the art of segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So get ready, because really understanding these concepts is going to completely change how you look at the brands you interact with every single day.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, the mass marketing mistake. Second, segmentation, finding meaningful patterns. Third, targeting, choosing your audience. Fourth, positioning, earning the why. And finally, surviving the AI era.
Okay, let's dive right into part one, the mass marketing mistake of treating everyone the same. I want to challenge you right out of the gate with this question. Are you treating every customer exactly the same? Because if you're putting out one single offer, one message, and one price point, and just crossing your fingers expecting it to perfectly fit everybody, you are falling into a very, very common trap. The reality is, treating every customer the same is literally one of the most expensive mistakes you can make in business. Think about it for a second. Customers differ wildly, right? They have different needs, totally different budgets, different habits, and completely different ideas about what they're actually willing to pay for. If you try to appeal to absolutely everyone with the exact same broad, watered-down message, you inevitably dilute your brand's impact. Averages just conceal really valuable differences. So treating everyone as identical essentially just burns your money while weakening your brand at the exact same time. To fix this mistake, we have to look at the strategy chain. First off, you define your market. Then, you segment it into meaningful groups. Next, you target the specific groups you actually want to serve. After that, you position your brand in their minds. And finally, you activate your strategy across your whole marketing mix. Now, you really need to notice the strict sequence here. If you just segment your market and stop there, without taking the crucial next steps of targeting and positioning, you haven't actually done strategy. You've just generated a pretty useless report.
Which brings us to part two, segmentation, and finding those meaningful patterns. This step is all about answering the fundamental question, who are we actually serving? But here's the catch. Not every way of splitting up a market is actually useful. Look at this breakdown. We've got demographic variables versus needs-based variables. You could, theoretically, segment a market by eye color. I mean, it's highly measurable, right? But it tells you absolutely zilch about what the customer actually needs to buy. The same often goes for age or location. They are super easy to measure, but they usually only describe a customer rather than explain their actual buying motives. Two people of the exact same age can want completely different things out of life. That is exactly why the strongest segmentations start with needs-based criteria, things like a customer's sense of urgency, their confidence, or the specific value they're seeking. Think of demographics as a label you attach after you've done the real discovery, not the discovery itself.
So, how do we actually build these needs-based segments in the real world? It's kind of a three-step dance. First, you start with qualitative exploration, things like direct interviews and observation. This is where you uncover the hidden friction and listen to the real language your customers use. Second, you move to quantitative surveys. This lets you measure just how common those specific needs are across a much larger sample size. Finally, you use clustering techniques. This is where algorithms find mathematical patterns in your survey data, grouping similar customers together. Now, AI is dramatically speeding up this clustering process today, processing thousands of data points in literal seconds. But you have to be careful. An algorithm can find a mathematical structure all day long, but human judgment absolutely must step in to decide if that pattern actually means anything strategic for your business.
Moving right along to part three, targeting, or choosing your audience. Once we have those meaningful segments figured out, we have to make some very hard choices. I absolutely love this quote. Targeting is where strategy gets honest about trade-offs. You see, a segment might look incredibly attractive on paper. Maybe it's a huge market, maybe they have massive budgets. But if it's a bad fit for your company's actual real-world capabilities, it's a trap. Targeting is just as much about consciously choosing who not to chase as it is about choosing who to serve. To make those honest trade-offs, we use specific criteria to evaluate our options. First is compatibility. Can your firm actually create superior value for this specific group using your current skills and assets? Second is monetary attractiveness. Are the profit margins and lifetime customer value actually there? Third is strategic market structure. Is this a growing space that you can realistically reach? And fourth, and this is crucial, ethical acceptability. Look, Just because a predictive algorithm identifies a high-propensity customer doesn't mean you should automatically target them, especially if doing so relies on manipulation, exploits a vulnerability, or strays from your core company values. It is just smart business to evaluate all of these factors before you lock in your target.
All right, part 4, positioning and earning the why.
So segmentation and targeting tell us who we're serving, but knowing who is definitely not the same as knowing why they should pick you over everyone else. Let's clear up one of the biggest misconceptions in business right now. Positioning is not a slogan. It is not what a company simply says about itself. Take a look at this comparison. We have the intended position. This is the strategy managers formulate on whiteboards in a boardroom. But on the other side, we have the actual position. This is the distinct meaning a customer ultimately assigns to your brand in their own mind, which is based on their personal experiences, their memories, and whatever alternatives they have. The huge danger here is that these two can heavily diverge. You might intend to be perceived as an innovative, premium luxury brand, but if your customer service is terrible, your actual position in the customer's mind is just overpriced and frustrating. Strategy's entire job is to align the intended position with the actual position.
To create that alignment, every strong positioning strategy has to clearly answer 4 foundational pillars. Question 1, for whom? Meaning exactly which customer and use situation are we prioritizing? Question 2, relative to whom? What is your competitive frame? What alternative solutions is the customer genuinely considering instead of you? Question 3, what value? What important outcome or benefit do we uniquely promise to deliver better than anyone else? And finally, question 4, why believe it? What is the credible evidence and organizational capability that proves we can repeatably deliver on that promise? Honestly, if you can't answer all 4 of these clearly, your positioning is incomplete.
Now, when answering that second question, relative to whom, we establish a frame of reference. And within that frame, you must first establish your points of parity. These are the essential expectations a brand must meet just to be considered a legitimate option in its category. Basically, before you can even try to stand out, you have to tick these basic boxes. Think about it. If you're launching a brand new smartphone, it fundamentally has to be able to make calls, connect to Wi-Fi, and hold a battery charge. Those are points of parity. You absolutely must neutralize your competitor's baseline advantages just to enter the customer's consideration set in the first place.
Once you've met those points of parity, then you need a point of difference. And let me be clear, this isn't just some quirky feature like painting your product neon green. To be a true strategic advantage, it has to pass these 5 strict tests. 1, it has to be desirable to the customer, meaning they actually have to care about it. 2, it must be deliverable by your firm. You can actually do it reliably. 3, it must be differentiating. Competitors can't easily match it. 4, it must be credible. It has to fit your brand's heritage and evidence. And 5, it must be sustainable over time against imitation. Only when a feature passes all of these tests does it become a truly defensible advantage. And remember, that point of difference must deliver real value. But value isn't just a technical spec sheet. It is a complex, multi-layered judgment. It can be functional, like raw speed or reliability, but it can also be psychological, offering the customer peace of mind. It can be experiential, focusing on sensory pleasure or just making a process easier. It could be social, offering a sense of belonging or identity. Or it can be monetary, offering savings or risk reduction. 2 products can have the exact same functional performance, but one wins out entirely because it offers superior psychological or experiential value. You just have to know which domain matters most to your specific targeted segment.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, Surviving the AI Era. Today, search engines, conversational assistants, and recommendation algorithms have completely transformed how brands are discovered and chosen. Because of this shift, your positioning now really has 2 distinct audiences. On one side, we have human audiences. Humans respond to meaning, emotion, memory, stories, and lived experiences. On the other side, we have machine algorithms. Algorithms don't care about stories. They require structured facts, highly consistent descriptions, and verifiable evidence across the web just to understand what it is you do. Now, the solution here is absolutely not to create 2 separate brands. The solution is to make the exact same honest brand promise legible to both. You need the experiential richness that creates human value, perfectly aligned with the structured data that allows an AI to confidently summarize and recommend you to a user.
But as you adapt to this, you really must be aware of the AI risks and strategy. Please do not let AI put your brand on autopilot. Be incredibly wary of what we call synthetic sameness. This is where brands use the exact same generative AI tools to write their copy, and suddenly every competitor starts sounding exactly alike, using the same generic, soulless language. Also, you need to watch out for hallucinated insights that completely invent customer needs out of thin air, proxy discrimination where models quietly act on hidden biases, and optimization myopia, where you end up chasing short-term clicks at the expense of your long-term brand value. AI is an incredible tool to process data, for sure, but the strategic differentiation must still come directly from you.
And that leads us to our ultimate diagnostic question for today. I want to end on this provocative thought. Read your company's positioning statement right now. Could your main competitor sign that statement without changing a single word? If they can, you don't actually have a position. You just have category generic praise. True positioning means making hard, honest choices about exactly who you serve, what value you uniquely offer, and backing it all up with undeniable proof. Know who, then earn why. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today, and I really hope this leaves you eager to go back and completely stress test your own brand strategy.